You have to get real and get right. You're going to sacrifice maybe your comfortability, some of the bells and whistles that you want in the house, possibly even the location, or you're going to pay whatever that looks like. And I think knowing where it is helps you set realistic expectations when you come into the market, so you're not looking for a needle in a haystack.
So what if I say that, look, I do want the bells and whistles right now for
Then
250,000?
get your money up. Get your money up.
You got welcome to another episode of Bet on T. Craig, where we are here to be present and inform you with the information necessary to make great decisions in the real estate market. We are here to be of service and serve you at a high level. And now, today, I'm here with the one and only
What's going on,
Chase
Randy?
Sloan.
Randy's so official. I love that. He's got this nice welcoming, welcome to T. Craig, Bet on T. Craig. We're here to help guide you, navigate you through the real estate market. And that is exactly what we're going to do today. So, Randy, I'm excited about today's conversation because we got a couple things we're going to start on.
Right.
First, however, it's the beginning of the year, so I think it's only appropriate for us to talk about what's happening in real estate. What happened in 23, what I believe we can expect in 24, and like you said, how to make a great decision.
Thanks.
Okay, so just what were you seeing? What did you see coming out of 23?
You want me to be honest? You want me to be honest? I think
on a scale of 1 to 10, I think the people want you to keep it 100.
I think that one of the biggest things that we noticed in 2023 was that not enough people were making decisions. They were saying that I was going to wait until 2024. 2024 has come. What will you do with it?
You know, I think when you talk about making a decision, because I think real estate is a little bit more complex. I tell you all the time, we're not selling sneakers. So I understand that most people are not going to make a decision
The
overnight.
sales cycle is different.
Sales cycle is definitely different. And also it's like, okay, well, why don't people make decisions? What's keeping them? A lot of times I think it's because it's your first time being pressed with something. So if you're like me, then anytime somebody introduces a subject to you, I say, I'm going to think about it. Give me a minute, let me sleep on it, right? So that's the first kind of arm's length. I don't have enough information on this subject. I don't even have the people in my life to help me make a decision on this thing.
Right.
So I think a lot of that paralyzation comes from lack of relationships, right? Because you're making this major decision by yourself.
But then it's like you also don't have the wise counsel. Like in me looking to improve myself within the real estate game, I understand that having a wise counsel around me is essential.
Yeah.
It is not, it's vital.
Yeah.
That is all.
So what does that look like in real estate? So we're saying, okay, most people pause when it comes to making a decision because they lack information or they don't have wise counsel. And yet most people believe that they do. So what gaps are you seeing as it relates to hiring the right realtor?
I think it comes down to the questions that you ask and the type of experience that you are looking for. Because even in all the consultations that we've done, it's always like trust, consistency, informative, is willing to be patient with me to inform me about this process. It usually sounds the same.
Yeah.
Right. And so in making a decision, it's that you commit to the team that serves you the best.
Absolutely. You know, when you say trust and transparency and honesty, all of these things that come up in what clients tell us, right? That's one thing that we say. What's important to you? What do you value? Because some people don't get it done. That's what I want you to.
No, for real, get it done.
Right?
Look, just walk me through the process and get it done, please.
Tell me the truth. Tell me what I need to hear. Tell me what I need to hear. I'll share a quick example. One time I was in real estate. I had a client and I was very new in the business. And I always share that this was a turning point for me as it relates to how I communicated with my clients because we were under contract. The house did not appraise. So anytime a house does not appraise, there are a few options that can happen. Number one, we can renegotiate the contract.
Renegotiate the contract.
Sales price matches the appraisal.
Right.
Number two, the buyer can bring the difference. Right. So if the house is 300,000, appraises for 275,000, and the buyer loves the house, they can pay that $25,000 difference. We saw a lot of that in the pandemic. And then the third thing that can happen is they can walk away. The buyer can walk away. Luckily, we
depending on how you structure the deal,
we structure our contracts to protect our buyer if the house does not appraise. And so they are able to move forward with making a decision without having to create a bunch of hypothetical scenarios of what if this, what if that. We just add that layer of protection into it. So the house doesn't appraise, and I get the email back. Nobody else got an email.
You're just looking at the man. You looking at the
Oh
paperwork like
my
you're like,
goodness, right?
who? How? How?
So I'm trying to like figure it
Yeah.
out. I'm trying to figure it out. I'm in my office. I'm talking to all top producers. I'm like, what do I need to do? I'm trying to call the lender. I'm trying to call the appraiser. I'm trying to handle everything on the own
Mm-hmm.
in the background,
Mhm.
right? I don't tell my client nothing, right? So I'm like getting all this stuff done. This is a couple days of me trying to figure this out and let me put this back so nobody notices, right?
Right.
It didn't work. The appraiser did not budge on the numbers, and then I still had to tell the client the house didn't praise, and here are our options. Now here's where the friction came in. She said, I wish you would have told me the truth so that way I could have been able to make a better informed decision.
Mm.
I realized that by not having that conversation with her, I robbed her from the opportunity of attempting to make a decision because I was
Facts.
trying to fix something.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was really and I always go back to this moment because that's really when I learned how to have hard conversations and that people hire us
To
to
be
tell them the
consultants,
truth.
to tell them the truth and to be consultants. Because something that I've learned directly from you is that before you go to your client, make sure you have a list of options so that you can best prepare them to make a decision.
For sure. Absolutely.
Because the thing is that I'm also learning that do not be very emotional within the transaction because it's a numbers game.
I'm always emotional.
It's a numbers game.
I don't show y'all that.
But how practical can we be during the duration of the contract, of the deal? I don't think it, and the thing is too, I think it helps though, right? Because we always talk about how it's like for you, it helps to be the good cop, bad cop, because it's like me, I tend to be less emotional within the transaction
Yeah.
because I'm always thinking about what's next. So we are here to service you at the highest level. But the thing is that there's gonna be roadblocks or there's gonna be a few complications depending on the entirety of the deal.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes it's like I am here to make sure that if I'm here to make sure you make a logical decision.
I think that's it is the best of both worlds, right?
Mhm.
Because there are one of the things I love about real estate is it's just numbers. It's
It's
just
just
a math
numbers.
problem.
It's
It's
just
just not
numbers.
an emotional thing, right? Oftentimes I say, I don't do well in spaces where there are all these variables that I can't control.
Mhm.
You don't want to lease me a house because I got a dog. My dog is not going anywhere, right? But
Yeah.
what does it have to do with this money that we talking about?
Right.
And so, I think being able to number one, and that's a benefit of having somebody represent you because we often talk about in a deal, it is emotional. And when you're with a professional, they often know how to keep that emotion between the lines
Right.
or at
Black and
least
white.
filter what they share with you so
Yeah.
that way you don't. I may
Yeah.
talk straight with Randy, yet definitely we're talking to clients, we're on the same page in regards to plan of action, what needs to happen, because a lot of the emotion is just distraction
Right.
most times.
Right.
So let's get into it. Let's talk about what the market was doing. We know what clients and customers were doing, but let's talk about what the market was doing. So we
Mhm.
had a lot of high interest rates. Most rates were like 7%. I got a lot of feedback of people saying rates are too high. It
Right.
doesn't make sense to invest. And yet a lot of people did. So why do you believe that was the case?
I think a lot of people still chose to invest because they were thinking long term.
Mm.
Because you could sit at the closing table and then even if you said, man, interest rates are 7%, the investor looks back at you and says, well, I mean, when it goes down, I could just refinance.
Yeah,
Solution based.
absolutely. So here's the interesting thing. And this was taught to me in I would say we were probably more in a buyer's market at that
Okay.
time.
Okay.
This is years and years ago. A 1% increase in rate equates to about $10,000 off of the sales price.
Now say that one more time.
A 1% increase in rates
Right.
equates to about a $10,000 increase in sales price. Okay.
Okay.
So that's why coming out of the pandemic, as rates got higher, people noticed that they weren't able to purchase more,
Mhm.
right? They're not qualified. It's really important for you to understand that when you're getting ready to buy a house, you are not approved on a mortgage price. You are approved on a mortgage payment. What can your monthly budget handle? So this is something why we always say when we talk about real estate being a math problem, they are looking at your debt to your income ratio, including your proposed mortgage payment.
Mhm.
And this is where a lot of people, they're like, well, I make a lot of money.
But you owe a lot of people. I think that's the but you owe a lot of people.
Yeah, make a lot of money and you owe a lot of people.
You owe a
It's
lot. You
never
got
going to be a
bills.
good equation.
You
And
got
then
bills.
you have issues paying them people back.
I think, and then that's why it comes to, I remember I was talking to one of, a lender at one point in time. He was telling me that he said all credit is a direct proportion of the habits that you have.
I've been told that credit is your inability to wait, and all debt is a
Mm,
lie.
mm, mm.
That's courtesy of my mom. She told me to tell y'all that all debt is a lie. You pretending that you have something that you do not. Now, people will argue there's a way to strategically use debt, and yet most people,
I think it comes down to information too.
it comes down to information, it
So
comes
now
down to counsel.
it comes down to counsel. Because if you don't know what to do or how to use it, now you're putting yourself in a position where you're liable for X, Y, and Z.
So we're talking about, okay, the way that a lot of investors were moving in
And you're saying, yeah, and the
2023 as we
interest
talk
rates.
about high interest rates and
Right.
why. Okay, so if we're saying, well, what do they know that you don't know? Well, one, they may
Mm,
know that tax rates, interest rates are tax deductible.
Say it again.
Interest rates are tax deductible.
Okay.
So while yes, it plays into your mortgage payment, deducted at the end of the year,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's one thing that a lot of people don't talk about as it relates to real estate is that, okay, cool, but you're going to offset that. And then the second thing is that you actually have more opportunity when the rates are higher. So, for example, I said to you, a 1% increase in interest rates equals a $10,000 equivalent, roughly. Don't come
Yeah.
tag me at me. I'm just, goodness gracious.
Equivalent. Yeah.
So
Right.
you can infer then a 1% drop in rate would mean what? Equivalent of a
That's
10%,
that. Yeah.
$10,000 price reduction.
Right.
Okay. So here's what we saw all last year,
Yeah.
especially all fourth quarter.
Right. Right.
Most sellers were willing to negotiate.
Facts. The last 3 months of 2023.
Winning.
Willing. Like, I need this gone.
Buyers that made a decision during the fourth quarter of 2023 saw huge opportunities as it relates to being able to get closing costs paid, being able to get rate spot down,
Mm-hmm.
being able to negotiate off of the sales price if that's what they wanted to do. And sellers were more likely to do the repairs that were needed in order to get the deal closed.
Right.
Pandemic, that wasn't a story.
At all. The thing is though, during the pandemic, I was actually in Georgia and I was in Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
So life was different.
Well, because, he said last episode that he was traveling
I was
during the pandemic.
I was taking flights. But
He's charging
just
his card.
just straight to the credit card. But
All,
besides that though,
all
during the
debts allowed.
pandemic, and with that being said, during the pandemic, there were townhouses and more condos, like I won't say available in the sense of like 180, 170. Like the price point was just relatively lower. And that was in 2021.
And here's the thing about price points, right? I have a belief that you cannot undersell real estate, right?
Mm,
Because if you're dealing with anybody that has been in the real estate market for 3 months actively looking, they know a good deal when they see it.
facts.
Right. And so a lot of times we'll see this too. And this is, we're going to talk about sellers in just a second, but you'll see people and they want to price their house high because I don't want to leave no money on the table. So then you sit on the market for 3 months. Then you
Now
have 4 price reductions.
and you've already left money on the table.
Now you really left money on the table
Right.
because not only were you priced out of the market when you first hit the market, now
Mm-hmm.
you're chasing the market. And if you have a realtor like me, I'm gonna look at all of those details and say they look like they pressed to sell. And I'm gonna go into that price history. I'm gonna go back to that transaction. I'm gonna see how long you've been trying to sell this
Taxes. Yeah.
property,
Tax code. Yeah.
right? And that's the unintended consequence of not having wise counsel,
Mm-hmm.
right? Pricing your house out the market or buyers being unrealistic of the market. How much does a house cost, right?
Right.
A lot of people talk about, oh my gosh, Houston is so expensive. Okay, but when it was $180,000,
Mm-hmm.
what was your objection then?
Mm.
Rates were so high. When rates were 3%, what was your objection then?
Mm.
So it comes back to, what stumbling blocks are you putting in your own way to keep you from being able to make a decision? We're going to keep coming back to this decision, right?
Right.
Because, like I tell you, there's always an objection,
Mm-hmm.
right? Something that they talked about at the end of the last year, the Fed mentioned that they were not going to be raising rates
Right.
in the fourth quarter. So a lot of
Right.
people were excited about that. And we talked about, okay, so what does that mean? So then we started seeing a lot of news articles, headlines coming out talking about the Fed anticipates 3 rate drops in 2024. From that ticker alone, that headline alone, they said there was 19% increase in mortgage applications.
So people are making decisions.
They're getting off the fence. A lot of people were on the fence. And
Ooh, and that's actually major that you just mentioned that, because something that we'd always talk about was that help me understand what life would look like after interest rates go down. And now there's more competition in the market because they see an opportunity that they're waiting on for months. So you're not the
absolutely.
only one.
See, I choose to believe that there are no good markets or bad markets. There's strategy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Winners happen in every market. People
Mm-hmm.
would lead you to believe that you only make money in the stock market when it goes up. But there are plenty of people that make money when it goes down,
Right.
right? And it's the same way in real estate. It just depends on the different type of strategy that you have. So absolutely, people that took advantage into 2024, even now, right? It's not like there's a specific timing to real estate. There's time in real estate, not timing real estate,
Right.
right? And so why were they able to have those type of negotiations? Well, because there wasn't a lot of competition. We just come out of a market where homes were selling in 2 hours. You knew it. You people were making offers sight unseen. I'll figure it out when I get there
Right.
on the road from California. Like, make an offer,
Make
20,000
make
over.
make it happen.
No. And so we moved from that. And now you have homes that are sitting on the market. Average day on market is 47 days in Houston right now.
Right.
Okay. So that's a month and a half. Now, if you are a seller that just came out of a market where homes were selling in a day, and now all of a sudden it's taking a month to sell your home without counsel, you're going to feel like something is wrong, or something's wrong with the realtor, something's wrong with the market, or something's wrong with the buyer.
Right.
Oh, now it's not nuts. No, this is just where we are. This is what, on average, it takes to sell a home. We've just been living in a lot of outliers. The benefit to buyers, and I'll let you go, is with that, that's where the win-win comes in. Because during the pandemic, it was a lot of my way or a highway. Name your price, substantiated or not. We don't want to be at that extreme to where buyers feel like they're getting the short end of the stick. We don't want to be on the other extreme where there's so many homes for sale
Mm-hmm.
and not enough buyers
Mm-hmm.
to where now sellers are getting the short end of the stick, right? So
Right.
it's being able to interpret the data and knowing how to move.
And it's amazing that you actually said that, because yesterday I was having a conversation with my uncle, preferably talking about making data-driven decisions.
Yes.
Doesn't matter if I'm lead generating, cold calling, running ads, data-driven decisions. And the same can be said for
Data scientists
yeah,
exist for a reason, right? Because after a while,
data engineers,
after a while, you have
architects.
to
Yeah.
ask yourself, are you an emotionally led person,
Mm. Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
That can only get you so far, right? Because that means that you either make uh, decisions when you're in euphoric state. Oh, everything's great. It's just so good. Let's get married. That's what people do in Vegas. Ah!
Right.
And
It
they
just
wake up the
looks
next
great.
morning and they're like,
Man, my bank account is suffering right now.
Lord, I'm going to file a divorce. Or do you make irrational decisions when you're, in full rage,
Mm-hmm.
right? So are you emotionally driven or are you data driven? That's just kind of like, okay, look, here's the problem, here's the solution, here's the path to get there.
Right.
And I think being able to interpret the data is what makes you savvy investor, uh, business professional,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is that you do.
And I think it's also important to analyze or understand the research that you do beforehand, right?
Absolutely.
Because I think that whether it's you're working on a lead magnet, whether it's you're working on an offer, whether it's these things are necessary to actually look into what it looks like over a long enough period of time, because you are doing the research and due diligence beforehand as you get into the market or as you choose to get into the game. Because a lot of people, not a lot of people, but I think over the last 4 months, I've gotten inquiries about, man, bro, why don't you wholesale? And I'm like, that's a different game.
For sure.
It's a different game. It's a different strategy.
And it's still the same amount of energy and effort, right? There is no hack
Mm-hmm.
in any life, anything in life, not in real estate, not in whatever it is that you try to do, and yet being able to objectively say that and know that, I think takes a lot of leadership as well.
I'm saying, because the thing is, you're right. If you used to wholesale a contract real quick and you just come up on 20, 30 bands, you like, life is different.
It's
But
different.
now
It's
it's
different.
all, it goes back to what type of game are you playing, and do you actually see yourself doing it long term?
I think purpose starts to play into that. So one of the things that's really important to me is that we have high level conversations about real estate so that
Mm-hmm.
we can build stronger communities. I truly believe that the pathway for us to have strong communities It's through business ownership and real estate ownership.
Facts.
Someone once told me there is no culture without ownership.
Look, you go down the highways and you start seeing, I want you to pay attention. Doesn't matter the city that you are in. Pay attention to this. On certain interstates, when you get off the exit, when you look at the type of strip, which culture are you looking at?
And
Because
it's everywhere you go.
it's getting, I'm talking about from the land, because they own the land, they own the building, they own the stores that are inside the strip that they bought, that they purchased, that they furnished. And now we're looking like, man, money stays in their community.
Yeah, so you have an opportunity to become victim based or attention based,
Mhm.
right? You talk about our communities, and I feel like we have right and responsibility to talk about that
Mhm.
because we come from the community, we serve the community, and so part of that is moment of truth with the community, right?
Right.
So when you talk about how do we build stronger communities where overall we are thriving and living in abundance, it happens through ownership, right?
Right.
It is just case in fact, you take care of what you own more than what you take care of what you rent. You've been in a
Mhm.
rental car,
You just
speeding on the highway,
just
maybe I'm
just
telling on myself,
no, I don't
right?
know. I
But
don't
when
know.
you're in your car, it's like, hey, don't need chips in my car, right? Because you own it. I think that's the same way in our neighborhoods, in our communities. And so, number one is being able to have that conversation and say,
Mhm.
hey, this is one reason why we need to do this. Number two, it's tax dollars that go
Right.
back into the community. So if you
Mhm.
got an issue with your school, you got an issue with uh, the law enforcement, if you, whatever it is, understand your tax dollars help pay for that, right?
Mm.
So most people that own are involved in their community,
Mhm.
and so being able to, I think you secure your own mess first, right? It's hard to talk collectively if you haven't done it individually.
Mhm.
And so a lot of times I think, and it's different schools of thought, but I think a lot of times we want to start outward and save the world before saving ourselves. It leads to a lot of dysfunction, right? Because now you're operating out of pain.
Right.
So that's
Very
my
true.
thoughts on that. What do you
Very true.
think?
I would like to ask, what do you think some investors could have done relatively better towards the end of 2023?
What do I believe some investors do better?
Could have done better towards the end of 2023.
Uh, what could investors have done better? I think
From the outside looking in.
I, I,
Just-
I feel like investors were doing it.
Mhm.
I mean, when I look at the people that I know that invest in a regular, consistent way, they were making decisions.
Mhm.
That is just it. I think the question is, are you an investor? How do you know?
And know
How long does
yourself.
it take for you to make a decision? Right? You are
Mm.
not an investor if you do not invest actively. And active can be passive or physically active. However, how do you know?
Right.
People talk about social proof a lot. People talk about, I do this, I live this, you know what I'm saying. What is your receipt, not for the world but for you, that you actually do the things that you say that you're going to do, and how long are you willing to give yourself to execute on that thing?
Right.
And so I think that's really important when we talk about invest. All buyers are investors.
Mm. I'm seeing that. I'm actually starting to understand that more
Or
and
should I
more.
say, all investors are buyers, not all buyers are investors.
No, I like that. Say that again. Write that. Say that again. Say that again.
All investors are buyers, but not all buyers are investors. And that's okay, right?
It comes back to then knowing yourself and what type of life do you want to live.
Knowing yourself and what type of life do you want to live. Because at
Yeah.
the end of the day, like we serve different people, right? We have some people that are securing a home for their family and stability and security. We have
Mhm.
some people, they are building their portfolio for security and cash flow and wealth. We have some people that are selling their home because it's time. It makes sense. It's so at the end of the day, your real estate decision is going to depend on where you are in life and what that life looks like for you. That's why I say it's not a one size fits all to real estate. That's why consultations are so important, because the advice I give to you, Randy, may not be the same advice I give to, whoever sitting
Mhm.
out there watching this video.
Mhm.
And I think that's what investors do differently. One, investors have a team
Right.
so they can make deals quick.
Right.
When I have an off market deal, or when I have a hot deal, or when I have a deal like I need gone, this is not the time to call me talking about your life dreams and ambitions. Baby, show me your proof of funds. Can you get this closed in 10 days? Because that's the speed of real estate.
Right.
And I think when we talk about, you know, the language of real estate. And the reason why I want us to have these continuous conversations, because I remember very early on when you joined the team, one of the first things I did, I said, "Look, I'm going to show you how investors work."
Right. And we went down to the county, and I said, these people got money.
What
Somehow
happened?
it's you see about a few people just keep bidding, and it keeps getting higher and higher and higher, and you realize if you want to invest, especially in this market, move correctly, move smartly.
You have to be able to move correctly, move smart, make decisions quickly. So how do you make decisions quickly? It comes by knowing your territory, knowing your
Right.
backyard,
Right.
knowing your investment, right? Being able to look at it. So let's talk about, okay, so what does Houston look like at a glance as of right
Let's
now when
talk
I
about
have
it.
this conversation with you
I
guys?
said move smartly. That's crazy.
Move. They know what you mean.
Let's get it. No, let's
They probably say it that way too. Okay, so at a glance, now when I talk about the language of real estate, or when you snapshot real estate, what do I pay attention to? I don't
right.
talk about what you do. What do I pay attention to? I
Mhm.
look at three key factors: the days on market, the months of inventory, and then the median average sales price. Now, I'll tell you why I look at both the median and the average sales price. Houston has luxury, a lot of big money here, right? So there are naturally going to be higher priced homes that will skew up the average, right? So, for example, the average is $404,000. The average home in Houston
That may decrease.
is a $400,000 investment. No, people hear that and say, "Oh my gosh, I'll
No,
never buy a
it
house."
increased though. Because remember a few months ago we were talking about the median
Yeah,
and the
the
averages.
average. Well, that was the
That was different for
the
that.
average increased
Okay.
by 1%.
Right.
So even with high interest rates and all the reasons why people say it's not a good time to buy, home values in Houston went up 1%.
Yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
that's an additional $4,000, $4,000 that it just costs you to wait. Okay, now the median price is 326,000. Now I say this is a little bit more realistic because median means middle. This is where middle most people are buying their home. It's costing. I had a buyer and we're talking. I'm like, so what's your budget? What are you thinking? They were like, oh, I don't know, like 200, 225. I said, okay, fantastic, right? Because here's the thing, those numbers aren't absolutes. Are there homes that exist below the median?
Right. Yes.
Absolutely. Are there homes that exist above the median? Here's what this buyer said that I thought was so smart. But tell me if that's realistic, because I don't want to go on a
Mm,
goose chase.
I like that. Tell me if it's realistic. Talk to me straight.
I said, here are the numbers. The average home price, the reason why you said it went up, the median home price in Houston last year, uh, November-ish, was 335,000. Now it's 326,000. Okay,
Okay.
so what
Right.
happened in the change of a month? Okay, that's probably the negotiations that we're talking about, the sales price and
Right.
things like that,
Right.
right? Well, I had that information. So they were like, just let me know. Just, am I being realistic? I said, well, I will say this. The median home price in Houston is $335,000. So the home that you fall in love with on the internet, the one that they did the high speed walkthrough
Mm-hmm.
and all the caption and clips and cuts, it is not $200,000.
It's not 200,000.
Right?
It's not.
So then you have to get really clear. You have to get real and get right. You're going to sacrifice maybe your comfortability, some of the bells and whistles that you want in the house, possibly even the location,
Mm-hmm.
or you're going to pay whatever that looks like. And I think knowing where it is helps you set realistic expectations when you come into the market, so you're not looking for a needle in a haystack.
So what if I say that? Look, I do want the bells and whistles right now for
Then
250,000.
get your money up. Get your money up.
You got, you got
Please don't come to me
you got to
without
level.
your money up.
You got to
No.
level up. I think it's to your point, and yes, increase how much money you're capable of making. I do think it goes back to the type of people you surround yourself with, because there are ways to structure the deal so you can purchase the home that makes sense for your budget,
And I think
your
that's
economy.
really what it comes down to,
Mhm.
right? Bells and whistles, there's so many different kinds and they all cost different amount of money. You can
Right.
find bells and whistle in any price point. What the better question is, in my opinion, is what's the best buy for my budget? Because at the same time, we don't want you house poor. We don't want you having to sell your house in 6 months
Because
because you
you're not
can't keep up with the payments. We
exactly.
want you to be an informed buyer, right? The goal, number one, is for you to be able to stake your territory.
Yep. Be like, it's the first one.
You got to plant your flag wherever you are. And so this is why I say use the data to help you make decisions, but don't allow it to intimidate you from doing so.
Facts.
Because at the end of the day, there is a best buy for your budget. Maybe that's a townhome, maybe that's a single family, maybe that's luxury, but it would be better served for you to get clarity on your numbers and what's the most I can afford realistically. And that's where your conversation with your realtor and your lender is going to come in.
Mm-hmm.
And so that way you can say, all right, now I'm ready. Or here's what I need to do to get ready.
Right.
Right. So all of this is just an opportunity for you to get ready. But I think it's very important that we always tell you the truth. The median home price in Houston right now is $326,000.
What will you do?
That buyer that ended up,
What will you do?
they did end up closing. They closed right at about 310.
But it goes back to like, what will you do? Or what does that look like for you?
Mm-hmm.
Because then it's like, we don't have to sit here and speak to your pain point of like, man, life has been like, you're going through X, Y, and Z. So now you are forced to then look to purchase instead of just strategically planning so that you're able to then purchase your ideal home.
That's what it is, right? Most people do not start here. You know, when they say started at the bottom, now that applies in real estate too, right? You started with what you could buy. Now you've been able to grow that or level up, right? You get familiar with ownership. Sometimes the first home is just so you can get familiar with the process.
Right.
Here's what it's like paying mortgages, looking at insurance. Okay, I got somebody to take care of my lawn. You might not want to make that your first decision right out the gate, a home run. It's okay taking first base.
And then we get into 1031 exchanges.
So what kind of strategy?
Oh, 1031 exchange? 1031?
1031, I think that's a high level conversation for another time. But I think that because
no, you're right. It is, that's a segment on its own, but it's true that that's how you're able to also play the game and leveling up over a long enough period of time. Robert Kiyosaki talks about it all the time. It's true.
I think that once you get involved in real estate, you start to see how many opportunities there are.
Exactly.
Real estate is vast. And the reason why I say we say that is because I would never want to bite-size something as intricate as 1031 exchanges.
And then you also even told me, though, it's like, hey, go deep in this game. And the deeper that you go into this game, you'll realize you could just, it's a well. Like, you're just going to keep on digging.
Yeah. And that's why people end up choosing specialties. So another thing that I noticed too is how clarity is power. One of the things that we do during our consultations is we help people develop a buy box. What exactly are you looking for? We're going to start now with your own home, but as you grow into an investor, because our goal is help you build wealth. What does that look like so you again make decisions quickly? They talk about billionaires and how they wear the same thing every day. They wear black t-shirts,
for efficiency,
jeans, right? Because it's efficiency. Because at a certain point, you don't want to fill your head up. If you're a type of person that's making decisions all day, deciding which shirt you should wear,
right,
ain't one of the ones that you want to spend your time on
at all.
Yeah, for sure.
I like that though. I like that, and it's true. Like, it was Bill Gates and I'm pretty sure Warren Buffett. They asked the question, "What is the number one thing that's contributed to your success?" They both wrote down on it. They said, "Okay, you guys can share your answers." They held it up like this, and both of the whiteboards said, "Focus."
Focus.
I said, "Damn."
How do people lose focus? Because I know we talked about it on one of the shows, just about how even when you thought you were focused, looking back, you realized you were all over the place. So how is that something that,
man,
how do you know if you're focused?
I think pay attention to your day-to-day or look at your calendar.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Because I think that even like it's a consistent battle with being mindful of the things you give your attention to.
Absolutely.
Like,
and if you don't track it, there's no way to know.
At all. Not even a little bit.
It's like, have you ever put your phone on a social media measurement thing where it tells you how long you've been on your phone?
You just on screen time? It's crazy. You be mad at yourself. You just be like, yo, I didn't know.
Man,
I didn't
it's
know.
a whole college course worth of hours that I've been on my phone, right? But until you
real
measure
talk,
you don't know.
So you look at it, say your screen time's been 10 hours today. You're like, bro, what was I doing for 10 hours?
What were you doing for 2 hours? What were you focused on?
10 hours. That's half the day. Because you're not even talking about eating. You're not even talking about the sleeping. You're not even talking about exercise. If you go to the gym, like these are just certain things that while we may not feel like they tie into real estate, they do. Because on social media, you can look to wholesale, you can look to flip, right? You could look to do Airbnb. You could look to do buy and hold, or now you want to do tax liens. Like
And I
there,
think that's what ends up
that's
happening.
5 different. Like,
I think
come
that's
on,
what ends
man.
up happening. I don't think there's a shortage of information. I don't think there's a shortage in opportunity of what you can do.
Mhm.
There is a shortage of focus and execution and doing it well and doing it long enough and consistent enough to where you actually start to see things happen. And I think when you, whatever
Compound
it
effect.
is, if
The
you're not
compound effect.
focusing on your one thing, because even with that, right, you mentioned 5 different things that you can do in real estate. That's still not focus if you're not going to
Do
pick one.
one. Yeah.
Right? Sometimes I have people come to me and they will say ideas just like that. They'll rattle it off just like that. And I'll be like, you're not ready. You,
Or we've seen it. We've seen it.
it's
I
gambling.
want to buy land. Wait, I want to buy land. Wait, I want to go build on the land. I don't even know how I'm gonna get the land, but I know that I want to get it. But I've also heard tax liens is a great place to start. It's like so
You're
where are you gonna
all
start?
over the place. And
Like, damn. I
depending,
just thought about that.
it,
Like, this is
it's a
crazy.
little overwhelming, right? I
Yeah.
mean, I hear stuff like that and I'm like, let's
Yeah,
breathe.
let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it, right? And it's not from judgment, it's just for clarity is power. And so if you don't know what you're investing in, you're a gambler, right?
Mm,
Some people are not investors, they're gamblers. And they just throwing money on the wall, seeing what sticks because they heard a 5 second clip about wholesaling was the plug, Airbnb was the bet,
I'm,
right? All of those things can be successful. I know people that are super successful in all of
of
it, but
course,
most of them, that's the one thing that they do.
the
They
one
might
thing.
occasionally do something, they might
But that's just
refer it on.
that's like 85 of my portfolio looks like this, and then 15% looks like this.
Yes,
Still, the majority looks like this because I built my wealth here and then I diversified. And I think
absolutely.
that's one of the biggest lessons we continue to see when you talk to millionaires, you talk to investors. They're like, no, this is what I do, and it's very specific.
They can tell a deal. I remember when we went to the county and we were, looking at deals, and I remember I was just kind of walking it through, and I could tell by the lot block, and I can say, well, I can tell you right there where that house is and how much it's probably going to go for. It's only because I understand that
That
market.
area.
That it's the only thing I study, right?
Hmm.
And so I think take away from that conversation is number one, what is your one focus this year? What in real life? In real life, what is your one focus? And then what is the timeline that you are giving yourself to? Not to feel
It's
uh
Parkinson's law.
shackled by
Yeah,
it, but
yeah,
you
Parkinson's
should
law.
have a deadline for the things you want to execute. Otherwise, you're just having a really big life in your imagination.
Ooh, you're just having a really big life in your imagination.
I can't see what you're talking about.
That is powerful. You are just having a really big life in your imagination. That hits home.
That it does. It's you're an avatar. What if we're moving to walking avatars and just avatars in life because not taking action, just living in a virtual world. I mean, if you live on social media, you live in Meta, you live in
I remember. I mean, I think though there's like virtual real estate, so you can definitely make money in whether it's AI or how you utilize virtual reality. But I do think that I remember one of my first years in real estate. One of the OGs in the office told me a lot of people are just sleepwalking through life,
absolutely.
and I said, "Whoa, like, whoa."
Wow. Well, it's like Gary Keller says, you can be a wandering generality or a meaningful specific, and most people are wandering.
Until they realize, damn, what did I do with the time and the effort and like just I was given this opportunity to live this life. What did I do with it?
It. I think that it's something that you really only notice in hindsight. So last show we talked about just the power of drifting. We talked about bringing your present to now. We talked about uh, all work expands into the time allowed. And I
Mhm.
feel like, man, I just feel like these, especially since the beginning of the year, time has just been a reoccurring focus point for me.
Has to be.
Manipulating time. Time can be manipulated. I was on a call once and someone said, when I get things done, I book for the top of the month, first of the week, top of the day. And so she front loads her calendar.
Hmm.
So if we're chopping up, hey, Randy, what you want to meet tomorrow? Right? Or if she's looking at
Facts.
her month, it's like,
Like,
okay,
what is your
she opens
schedule?
up her calendar. She's not saying, okay, well, let's schedule it in the middle of the month. Cause girl, I be having stuff, the first of the month. That's always no, no, no. She's like, okay, cool. First Monday at 9 o'clock. Let's get it.
To your point, I had someone call me this morning. He said, "Oh, my bro, Randy does real estate." He said, "I am looking for a commercial spot. His timeline is what really," I was like, "Whoa." He said a week, 2 weeks. I said, "Oh, you're different." Because you see how it's like that timeline is like, what am I waiting for?
Well, I think also, and we've said it, most successful people make decisions. The key to people becoming successful is their ability to make decisions and how long it takes for them to make it.
Or like success loves speed. One
Success loves
one of the
speed.
one of the quotes that I love is like, does it have to take the whole week, or can you have this done by the end of the day?
Most times you can, right? If the reward is strong enough, I believe you can get it done. That's why, like I say, people on vacation or have a vacation scroll coming up get the most stuff done because there is a reward
Mm-hmm.
when I clock out. But I need to make sure all this stuff is done. So you more focused. You don't got the door open. You're not going out to the water cooler. You focus. You working. So I think just being able to really play with that, play with the idea of manipulating time. Can you make a decision? I used to fear making decisions because I didn't want the consequence of whatever happened. And I remember somebody once told me, he said, you will survived 100% of the decisions that you've made in your life. One more will not kill you.
Better yet, the quote by Warren Buffett where he says most people only need to make 4 to 5 good decisions in their lifetime.
I'm telling
So would that then mean that most of the
you. I bought the
things,
house. I bought the right house.
I married the right
Married the
person,
right person.
I decided to stay fit,
I
maybe,
decided to stay fit,
I
eat
chose the
healthy,
right career path,
chose the right career path.
and then it's like I chose the right dream, vision, goal, destination.
I hope y'all rewind that
Play it back,
because just
like,
just
nah, but
like it's all a hypothesis, right?
right.
It's all like try it. You spending 10 hours a day scrolling anyway, so try it. Try making a decision that aligns in one of the things that we've mentioned, and let's just test God and see if it's real.
Test God and see if it's real. I think the prayer, Lord, I see what you did for others.
What?
You ever see the prayer like, God, I see what you did for others. Like, you know how they're like, I see what you did for others. Like, you can do the same for me. For real, let's keep it a buck though. Like, let's be honest. I saw what you. Let's be honest. I can only control what I can control, and so therefore, I've been given this life. What will I do with it?
There it is, though. And because you can control what you can control, you are nobody's victim. Of course, I taught quantum leap. First question we ask is, whose life are you leading, and how do you know? And all the students they say, me. I am. I'm leading my
And
life.
then you write it
I
down.
am.
And then,
Okay. So if you say that you are leading your life and you are in control, then that means we are removing the possibility for you to be a victim because you just said that you are leading your life. You see how that works?
right.
So you can't say that you're leading your own life and then
Say
call
it's
call
someone.
blame
Yeah.
and victim, right?
Say it's someone else's fault because I'm not where I want to
It's
be.
like that
Yeah.
book, Extreme Ownership,
It's a
right?
great book. Yeah, it's a great book.
You gonna take 100% accountability,
All
or
the
you gonna
time.
be a victim, but you're not gonna be able to play both sides,
At all.
right? So even your bad decisions are your fault.
It is your fault. It is your fault. In the
Accept it and learn
in
from
the
it.
military, there's always going to be consequences. What There will be consequences for the decisions that you make, but it's like you consistently see that leaders make decisions.
You can, yeah, right, because you're failing forward. Like
Right.
we kind of talk about the same stuff, but you get better at making decisions by making decisions.
That's it. You get better at having hard conversations by having the hard conversations.
You do not achieve it by avoiding it.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? And I think like even if we're talking about hard conversations, and this is something that even I was joking, I was commenting on Chrisette Michelle. I was on your IG page. I was like in the comments, thank you for liking. Hey. But anyways,
What?
but
What?
no, for
What?
but for real, she's talking about
Love it though.
people.
Yeah.
There's a point.
There,
Just stay with it. We still got like 20 more minutes. There's a point. She was talking about people becoming disposable because the world
Oh,
that we
snap.
living in, just the world of blocking and ghosting and avoidance and all this
Mm,
stuff. And we see this also in business. We'll have conversations with people, we follow up, they ghost, they don't respond. What
mhm,
happened? Are you okay? Are you alive? Do you want? And it comes from the avoidance of hard conversations. So the reason why I shared that is because I responded to, I was in her comments. I said, this is something I actually really had to work on because I went to an extreme where it was like, "You're about to disrupt my peace, block," and I was okay with
mm.
that. That's where I was at that time. And then also through friendships and certain people that I get counsel from, they're like, "Well, now you're robbing them from the opportunity of making it right."
Oh, okay. I can
Do you see what I'm saying?
now.
By
Okay, now
me
that
not having the hard conversation, not only was I not growing, I wasn't giving you an opportunity to grow because number one, you didn't understand or know that I was mad.
right,
And then number two, you didn't have an opportunity to self-reflect on it. So that's just me just being open and transparent with you guys. Like I'm finding that balance now. Like, how do you have hard conversations? By having them.
by having them, by having them. You know, back to the topic, or we're still on the topic of having decisions, right? Is that in the book The Alchemist, it talks about how the author felt as if that death was always by his side. And he's getting interviewed, and the interviewer talking about death, and he's saying that no, death is here. Like death is right beside me. Death is right beside you, and I'm telling her like, don't take me now.
Could you imagine that? I don't know. I guess I'm a very, I'm a thinker. I'm a dreamer. I'm an imaginer. You remember that movie? Was it called Ghost with Patrick Swayze?
I don't remember that
You
movie.
don't know. You're a 90s child. You don't know. Well, in that movie, right?
I don't know.
When the bad people died, all the little ghosts would come up and
Oh,
swipe you up when they come in and get you. It was really scary as a child to
damn,
watch and see that. But when you think about,
damn. Like that is crazy. Let's not act like the bad things that you do in life will eat at you, huh? How about that?
I don't know why we were allowed to watch the stuff that we watched as a child.
You
But
know
the
what?
point
And
is,
to
you're
say
saying
that,
like death is close, and I don't think
mm,
this is where I really get.
I like
This
that
is where
though.
I
It's
really
very
get.
powerful.
This is where I really get a bit about as it relates to how long it takes sometimes to make a decision because you're operating like you have time. Like you don't know this little scary ghost could be right behind me right now. Y'all saw that what's that movie Final
Final destination.
Destination? And something crazy happened and one of these things pop up and poke me in the eye and who knows, it'd be a tragic story on YouTube. Probably have a million views.
Nah, people really. Oh my
But the
gosh.
but the point is, I know
No,
where
no. To
I'm
your
going with
point.
it is that
No, there's real
you
stuff
don't
though.
know how long you have to make a decision, whether it's a decision to make it right, whether it's a decision to make it better, to make a decision to move forward, take action. You don't know. So all of this, I'm gonna do it next year. We gonna just see where this goes. It is the most insulting thing I think you can tell a person. Let's see where it goes.
Or people say, I'm. I'm not laughing when people say this, but when they say, I'm letting life just cruise along. Like I'm just going with the flow of life. Really? Really? I did that. I've done that.
I've done that too.
It gets to a point where it does not serve you at the highest level.
And then I think it's an
In my opinion,
opportunity
that is my
to
opinion. I am.
I think it's an
Yeah.
opportunity to remember what it feels like to dunk. So
Mm,
I think there are periods in life I have gone through deep, dark depression holes where this whole room could be dark, pitch black, and I'd
mhm,
be okay, right?
mhm.
You got to get grace to that, right? We're not saying that you have to be superhuman, right? You got to remember to rest. You got to remember to take care of yourself and your mental health. But you also got to remember how to dunk again. And the only reason why you're going to feel like that is knowing how to make a decision and seeing like, oh my gosh, like
I can
I
do
I
this.
remember when I
Yeah.
think about like peaks in my life
Hmm.
where I was like, man, we snapping, we getting it. Okay, okay. I was in a decision. I was seeing stuff and
Clear.
I was going after it.
I think, and that's the thing too. Like understanding that you have always been that person, and it's
Always been that
and
dude.
it's important to remember who you are.
You've always been that dude.
The second that you forget is the second that you've let your opposition win.
For sure. Because
And
somebody's gonna see that and be like, y'all, it's a game.
Facts. I like, and for example, I remember when I first talked about getting my real estate license, boy, I was doubted. You 18, 19 years old, you're not gonna get your license. Then I failed. I came back, I told me I failed. Boom, 2 weeks later it passed.
Hmm.
Like it's making a
But
decision.
even with that, boom, 2 weeks later, right? So
Oh,
the
I'm not
question
waiting.
is like, what do you allow to stop you? Oh, I'm getting my real estate license. You ain't gonna be able to do that, so then you don't do it. I'm gonna get my real estate license, so you fail. I ain't gonna do it, right?
Hmm.
Your ability to succeed, I definitely think, will come down your ability to get knocked down and how fast you get back up, right?
Right.
If it
Right.
like,
And then the thing is too, let's also, for context, is that be mindful of the decisions you make, and are they like boat killers? Like, are they going to sink the ship?
yeah,
Because now you got to also maybe talk about risk tolerance. Because we're not like, because when you purchase a home, it's not to say that this is it's sink or swim. It's to say that if you can afford it consistently, right, without breaking the bank account, is the home not beneficial to you because you're going to pay rent regardless.
exactly. I think that's the thing when we talk about being able to afford something consistently. You number one, again, remember who you are. You've been doing this,
Yeah.
right? So this
Yes.
is what sometimes is fascinating people. People will say, "Man, I've been on my own since I was 8, and I've been getting it out the mud since I was 12." And, so you're telling me all of these examples, you're giving me all of this evidence of how you've been able to push through, make a way, find a way or make one. Shout out Clark Atlanta. And when it comes to this thing that can rapidly accelerate your life, all of a sudden it's like, I don't know, man. I don't know. But this will catapult you into a different dimension.
To your point, when people say, I need to work out consistently, you've made a decision to be inconsistent with exercise. All you need to do is say that I've been consistent in one way or another. Now I just need to be consistent with the actual process of staying fit.
Yeah. And I
And
think
that comes down to
accountability
making a decision.
accountability can get you there. I think that
I think it
goes back.
helps, but I think it also gets to a point where it's like you either do it for yourself or you don't.
Well, I don't know. I honestly think that accountability, and that can show up in a bunch of different ways, but we
Right.
we will fail ourselves more than we will fail somebody else, right? And so there are plenty of times where, you know, in the morning, we have script practice 7 in the morning. I don't ever want to be up. I never want to wake up
That
at
is
7 in
hilarious.
the morning to have practice. And also, I don't want to be judged when I don't, right? So some of my discipline just comes from shame. I I don't want to. I don't want to be shamed for not going to be in practice or being late. But
Oh
it is
my
honest.
gosh.
If you listen to most people, why do people go work out in pairs?
Yeah, because they
Because
need
you'll
someone.
sleep. You'll press that snoozer if it's just about you going to the gym. But if me and you today said, if you said, Chase, meet me at the gym at 6 in the morning, I say, okay, Randy, I don't want to see your text talking about where you at. And I don't want to text you talking about my bad.
Now, how about this though, right? Even if I'm to wake up late, I'm still going to show up at the gym because
Absolutely.
I said I was going to go. So now the question may be, what does it take for us to get to that level?
So what again, it goes back to what do you allow to stop you? Right? 5 minutes. It's been plenty of times where I've been late, but I'm like, okay, I said I would do this, so I will.
So I'm gonna do it.
You got a book with you. What you talking about?
So this book, Napoleon Hill, Outwitting the Devil, is a great book, right? Now, one of the quotes in here is when you talk about drifting, you talk about the fear of reality. So I wanted to quote, right, that recognize the truth that fear generally is a filler with which the devil occupies the unused portion of your mind. That is one sentence. And then realize it said the unused portion of your mind, right? Now, it is only a state of mind which you can control by filling the space it occupies with faith in your ability to make life provide you with whatever you demand of it. And so that is why we always talk about the power of the tongue, because what it
Uh,
is that you profess is what then is able to manifest itself in
it's
reality.
intentional. right? Because if you can look back in your life and see where God has shown up on something that you said unintentionally in a
Mhm.
positive way, then the opposite must also be true. In that book, Outwitting the Devil, one of the things that the devil says is that I am the antithesis of everything positive, everything
Mm.
good. So I take up the negative space, I occupy the negative space, I get you to fall and drift into the negative. So the doubt, the fear, all the stuff that holds you back. And then one of the things that he said that he cannot attack a person that thinks for themselves accurately.
Mm.
So then I like qualifier words. I'm always like, but why you say that like that?
Accurately.
Why you say accurately?
Yeah.
Because the truth is, a lot of people, everybody thinks for
Ooh.
themselves. It's just, what are you thinking? Why y'all? Not y'all. I don't know.
Okay,
Y'all.
but when you say that
ev-
everyone thinks for themselves, I think that it goes back to what type of life do I want to live? And what
Absolutely.
am I willing to do to make it a reality?
And what model am I following to help me know how to get there?
What mentors am I getting information from? That's why we talk about the game is sold, not told, because it pays to be in the room that you're in.
Absolutely. And you have to qualify what you're listening to.
Facts.
Because like if we go back to working out, right? So now Randy, I don't know if y'all can tell, but Randy works out every morning before script practice. So I already told y'all I don't want to be up at script practice, but Randy is obviously up hours before then because he's like wrapping up his workout. And so imagine me coming to you though and telling you, well, Randy, I heard that I didn't need to work out. I just needed to, live on chips and soda.
I'd be like, that is the life. I've gotten to a point now. If that's the life you want to live, so be it.
Wait a minute. What are you talking about? I'm trying to be like you. I'm healthy. I'm not
Mm.
overeating, Randy.
I'd say, what do you need to then do to show up for yourself? Because clearly you're not in enough pain yet,
But according to what?
according to the fact that you're living in comfort. Well, you're living in the life that you want to live, right? It's not about comfort. It's about the life that you want to live.
So when we talk about that qualifier, what did he say? He said, I cannot exist in the mind of those who think accurately. Now, the way that he then further describes this is with courage, faith, hope, and purpose.
Yeah.
Courage, faith, hope, and purpose is how the devil describes somebody who thinks accurately and somebody that they cannot mess with. Somebody
Mm.
who thinks with courage, faith, hope, and purpose. So it's courage of being able to do the thing,
Right.
make a decision.
Right.
That's the first step. Faith and hope, I think that just really comes down to what you think and what you believe about yourself.
Thoughts become things.
One of the things that I notice a lot of times when I talk to you, I'll ask you what you think about something, and you always respond, "I believe."
That's because I'm looking this. You see how I'm looking to speak with intent and purpose.
It is
It's sometimes it's as if I'm always thinking in my mind I'm giving a speech, but it's like still it's like I believe this is what I believe, and that's
But
why I
it's
sit on it.
so powerful. I mean, it's so this is why, again, this is why who you surround yourself with matters, because I'll be literally we'll be on a call, we're talking just like we're talking to you, and then he'll say this stuff and I believe too. Let's do it. Right. But he is professing what he
Yeah.
thinks and he's thinking about whatever I shared with him, and yet the power of belief. And so if you do not believe, that first thing comes back to that idle space in your mind that's being often filled with negative thoughts. And where is that coming from? So if you go to like church, or if that's something that you do, a lot of times you'll hear them say, guard your gates, what you listen to, what you watch, what you eat, who you talk to, all of these different type of things,
Hmm.
because you cannot judge one thing and not have that same place of judgment on yourself.
Facts. And we also do want to say that if you have enjoyed this conversation, please feel free to like, share, and subscribe. And we do want to give a moment here for one of our sponsors, Society of Wealth. You
Absolutely.
have
We want to.
continued to manage our books and ensure that we are clear with what we need to do next within our business. And for that, we thank you.
Absolutely. And also, in addition to that, just making sure that your house is correct, right? So when we're talking about buying a
Hmm.
home, starting a business, a lot of that's going to come down to the paperwork. And are you paper approved? It's your tax returns, it's your profit and loss statement, it's
Hmm.
being able to be bank ready. And so that way you're able to continue to grow and expand your wealth. So again, thank you, Society of Wealth, just for your sponsorship. Let's get back to the conversation in regards to what are some other things that stood out to you in the book, Napoleon Hill's Outwitting the Devil, and how you are applying that right now.
To understand that if it's meant to be, it's up to me, and there are no excuses. That where I'm currently at today is because of decisions that I've made up until this point.
Mm-hmm.
And so you wanting to be all that you want, all that you can is based off of what you do today, because it's like the past is something to reflect on. The present is a present, and the future is based off of what I do today. And so
Absolutely.
we want to thank you for joining this high level conversation today. Ensure that you're taking action within your own life, and let's get into it.
Absolutely. Look forward to you guys making some great decisions. See you next week.